Today I'm just sharing my thoughts here and some timelines and some connections. No claims, just sharing my thoughts. If there's something I say here clicks with you, by all means, follow it on. We're back with the SR71, one of my favourite planes of all time, if not the favourite plane of all time. And we're discussing the International Space Station as well. Now the ISS started being built supposedly in 1998. And it continued to be built for a few years and has continued to evolve. But it took several years for the main structure to resemble what we see today. But at the same time, 98, 99, when the ISS is supposedly being built, at that very same point in time, NASA were operating the last couple of SR71s that were allowed to fly. Everything else had been retired, except for a few planes that NASA had. And they were doing a project called the LASRI project, which essentially was a lot of high altitude testing. Some of it supposedly was testing a wing for the X-33 plane, which we'll have a quick look at. If you're into your code, you've already got your 33 there, I won't go there. But this plane essentially never ever got made. And I'm kind of thinking, this project that NASA were citing, they were doing 98, 99 for this LASRI project, doing tests supposedly of wing designs at high altitude on the back of the SR71. I think that's a cover story. So let me just show you where I'm going with this. Just to give you some idea, here's the experiment. All the links to the stuff I show you today is going to be in the description. This is supposedly a section of the wing of the X-33 that they were testing at high altitude, doing various tests, okay? Part of this project. Like I say, I think this is a cover story for something else, which I'm going to tell you in a minute. Okay. Right. Here's an interesting article that goes into the project and the stuff NASA were doing with their SR71s. And we'll just have a quick look. Again, I'm not going to bore you with too much detail. We'll just look at some pictures, bits and pieces stuck onto the back of these SR71s while they were doing high altitude tests. Are you starting to get where I'm going? Bearing in mind the ISS, which is supposedly a spacecraft at high altitude, was starting to be built when NASA were doing these high altitude tests, supposedly with a wing design for an X-33 plane that never ever got built. There's other bits and pieces that were stuck on the back of these planes. There's details of the planes they were using. Other bits and pieces. Now, like I said, I think this project is a cover. I think, again, I'm only thinking out loud, I think in 98, 99, NASA were doing high altitude tests, potentially testing holographic technology on the back of their planes. And I think this LASRI experiment is a cover story for that. That's what I think. I think they were testing to see if they could get away with it. They were testing potentially new holographic technology which had come out. We'll have a quick look at some paintings that have come out in the mid-90s very shortly. But that's what I think NASA were doing in 98, 99. Potentially fine-tuning their fraudulent game for the ISS pantomime that was to come. I'm over at the patents, mid-90s upwards, and there's plenty of interesting new inventions using holographic technology. Link in the description. If this interests you, by all means, go and have a look. Were NASA putting potential holographic type technology on the back of the SR71s and testing high altitude to see if they could get away with it? Is that why in some cases what we see up almost looks holographic, some of the photography? Some of it seems to just fly by like an aeroplane. So are they using holographic technology? Is that what we're seeing? Have a look at some of these patents. See what you think. Does something catch your eye here? Were they potentially putting holographic technology on the back of an SR71 and testing it? The timescales are very similar. The X-33 story just doesn't cut it for me, and the fact the plane never came into existence really gets the alarm bells ringing. Have a look yourself. Now, just before I go, this isn't my footage. This is footage from Australia, a guy who's taken nighttime footage of the ISS and then run it through, changing the contrast and bits and pieces. And he, like I'm sort of thinking, is wondering, are they using some sort of holographic technology to sort of portray the ISS like how we see it, when actually maybe it's a plane with some kind of holographic technology that's projecting. Again, I'm only thinking out loud. I've just shown you a timeline, showing you some information about a project that never came to be, that NASA were running high altitude tests. You can look at the articles yourself. Let's just watch this guy run his footage of the ISS and change the contrast. Let's have a look. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm not making any claims to this chap's footage. It just kind of ties in with my thoughts, not my claims, just me sharing my thoughts here. So I've got to ask, was the SR71 doing tests using holographic technology in the late 90s for NASA for the ISS fraud that was to come? You tell me.